All right, well, welcome to another episode of the Mental Health Janitors. All right, so as always, I'm Sergeant Q, and I'm joined by my co-host, Doc Jess. And so we're going to go over some few things for you guys today. Number one, we're going to talk about some new advancements that are happening out there in the mental health sphere, some new technology that's out. We're also going to give you guys another tool for your toolbox when we talk about structure and how it can help you improve your mental health and have you have I can't talk today, and help you have a healthier mental health journey. Then we're going to talk about some current events that are happening out there and how that may be affecting some of your mental health because trauma that you've experienced in this life. And so, Jess, you want to kick us off with some new advancements?
Sure, Aaron. It's an interesting new advancement we're going to talk about today. And it's called the Spire Health Tag, right? And it's this concept of, it looks like a lot of research and technology has gone into this concept. And it's these tags that you put in your clothing that you wear.
It's like a wearable, but not for your body, for your clothes.
For your clothes. And you're supposed to put it on, so if women put it on their bras and men put it on their underwear, right? You get 10 tags and then it's a monthly subscription, right? Mm-hmm. So it's monitoring your sleep, your breathing, and it gives you on this app different, hey, you have 33% more calm today, or hey, you had 11% less restful sleep last night. And as I was watching the information on this new advancement, I just kept thinking how it just, in my personal opinion, I have more than 10 pairs of clothes that I would need to put this tag on. It says that it's machine washable and the battery lasts a year and a half. I guess I can't conceptualize how that is going to be very effective long-term compared to the other technologies like wearables that are out there. Like we'll talk later about a Ring and the Fitbit. I feel like it does all the same things those do, just a little less effective in your clothes. What do you think?
Yeah, so I love the idea of wearables. I think they're fantastic. And so wearables are great. There's kind of a buzzword out there, these wearables. They're different devices. They have the Oura Ring, you have the Fitbit, there's a Garmin watch, a lot of different watches, Apple Watch, even some of your phones now. It's not technically a wearable, but you can put your finger on the camera and it'll take your heart rate. Just different things like that you can monitor what's happening inside your body. And have it displayed in real time on a screen. I think that's great. I think it's incredibly helpful tool. These wearables are going to help you be able to understand what's happening in your body as you're dealing with stress, or if you're dealing with an anxiety attack or depression. You're going to be able to see this in real time, lived out on a screen live. And I think that is great. I love the idea. But like you, this idea of a wearable in your clothes just seems foreign to me. It seems like just one more thing I have to worry about. Like, did it still stick? Is it working? Is it not working? Am I wearing it right now? Am I not wearing it? It just seems like another behavior that the user has to learn.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I know about this stuff because I have a technology company and I have an app that I built. And so when it comes down to the getting an individual to learn a new behavior, you really have to give them one behavior until they get it, and then another behavior until they get it. That's just how our brains work. It's really hard for us to change our habits. It's really difficult. And if you try to change too much too fast, you're going to fail because you're just overwhelmed with it, and then you get burned out on it. And so I look at this as two behaviors now. One behavior, which is now you've got to put this on your clothes and put those on. Remember that. That's one behavior, is making sure you have the right piece of clothes on for this wearable to work. Yeah. And then number two, the other behavior is actually checking your data and looking at it. And then the third behavior is now you have the data, what do I do next? Yeah. So that's three behaviors you're trying to get the individual, the new user, to adopt at once. And I just see it being too cumbersome. Yeah. And I don't really want to throw shade on anybody else's tech. Sure. This is great tech. I love the idea. I just think it would have been better if maybe instead of sticking on your clothes, what if it just stuck to you? Kind of like those blood pressure monitors, they do that. Or the, not blood pressure, it's blood sugar. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Diabetes monitoring. They have those tags. They stick right in the back of their arm there. They're good for like a week. I could see that. If for me, in my mind, and I've done a little bit of research into this technology, if they would just transition that one piece, I think they'd have more success. I don't know what kind of success they've had right now. This is new coming out, and I wish them all the luck in the world. For me, I would look at that and I'd want to pivot slightly to where you are technically wearing that wearable for a week, and then it's disposable. I don't know what the cost point is as far as like what those cost to produce, manufacture, wear, all of that stuff. It may have been the cheaper options for a company may have been like the Oura Ring or like the Fitbit or any of the other thousands of wearables that are out there. So time will tell. We'll see, if this works better. The real true gem, I think, of their technology is the algorithms that they've built. So they're using some AI to look at the algorithms of how your breathing pattern goes and be able to give you suggestions on how to better improve your mental health. So that's great. That's great. I think the execution part of putting it on your clothes is a little bit difficult. And so we'll just see kind of how that plays out.
Yeah. Well, and all of these advancements are talking about it kind of is a soft intro to all, the tool that we're going to talk about today as well, and how our structure or the lack thereof structure in our lives does affect our mental health. And if you're ready to move on to that, we can move on to that. Yeah,
let's talk about structure. Maybe you can tell us a little bit, like in your practice, like what's the main purpose behind helping somebody build structure in their life? Like, what can you break that down on a mental health level for us?
Yeah. So the first thing that comes to mind is our circadian rhythm.
Okay, so circadian rhythm. So I know what that is because I fly a lot. So maybe break that down. Circadian rhythm, or I'll do it. Circadian rhythm, and correct me if I'm wrong. That is your sleep patterns, right?
Yeah.
How your body
sleep and wake pattern. Yeah.
Sleep and wake. Yeah. Okay, so how you're sleeping. So when I fly over to Europe or if I fly to Africa, my circadian rhythm is off because I'm here on Pacific time, and then I'm over there, and so it throws it off. But you said it has something to do with weight. So go into that. What's weight? You said sleep and
wake.
Wake. Oh, sleep and wake. Got it. Yes.
Probably weight too.
I thought you said weight, and I'm going, I don't know about weight. I'm like, I float a pound a night, right? From wrestling. Any of you wrestlers out there, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so your sleep and wake, your rhythm of how you're resting, how your body is getting rest. And so when you fly across the country or across the world, that gets thrown off, and it's really difficult to get that back in line. And so, that's what the circadian rhythm is. So, back to you, Jess. Okay, so it throws off your helps with your circadian rhythm. And why is that important?
Well, so if we think about like prior to the light bulb, okay? I mean, even think back to like BC or like before the light bulb was produced. Okay. So, people would, wake up when the sun came up. There was no technology, no alarm clocks. The sun would rise. Their bodies would say, okay, time to get up. They would go about their day. They would have to make all their food and farm and whatever that looked like during daylight. And then when the sun started setting, their bodies naturally started to wind down for sleep. And so sleep issues weren't as prominent back then, because everybody's circadian rhythm was much more aligned. Now we have light bulbs. And so if I still have stuff to do, even when it's dark, I turn my lights on in my house to get it done. Or I sit on my phone to get tired. Or there's so many things now interceding with that natural rhythm. So you would wake up and you would get started with your day. You would get fresh air, no electronics, or it's just that rhythm stayed pretty natural. And so if we think of now, there's a lot of ways to get back to counteract all this electricity that is in our lives. So one thing is when you wake up and you get into a routine of, like for me, I go outside every morning. When I first wake up, get fresh air. If the sun is shining in Washington, I get the sun on my face. And I kind of like a hippie, I get my feet on the ground. I do a little bit of grounding. I take my shoes off, I get in the grass or dirt, whatever. And research has shown that your melatonin, your natural hormone or whatever melatonin is, I should know this, starts about 12 hours after your wake up structure routine. And so if I wake up at 6 a.m., 6 p.m., my melatonin is going to start kicking in. Mm-hmm. And it takes, a couple hours for it to fully come into effect. But then I start getting tired on this structure 12 to 14 hours after I wake up and start the wake process. And we just don't have structure like that anymore in our lives. I know I don't. Do you?
In the military, you have a tremendous amount of structure, right? And I write about this in my book. I think it's chapter 10, Structure, Routine, and Discipline.
Yep.
And how that daily structure really helped me be successful and accomplish a lot. And I try to add as much of that into my life as I can. So like you, I have a morning routine that I do every single morning. And when I don't do it, I can feel it.
Yeah.
If I wake up late and I'm rushed or something happens, I've got to go, I miss my morning routine, I just feel off all day. And so that's how I felt this morning, because I did my Bible study in the car on the drive here because I was running a little bit late. My wife was driving. I wasn't. But I usually have about 30 minutes in the morning where I wake up, I have my cup of coffee, I drink my water, I have my cup of coffee, and I do my Bible study. It's just me. And, nobody else is up. It's just me. And that's how I start my day. And so today that was off. I didn't, I had to do my study in the car. I had to get coffee on the way here. And that was incredibly frustrating for me. So everything was kind of thrown off for me today. Mm-hmm. And I feel that when I don't have that daily structure, when I don't fall into that in the morning, it really throws off the rest of my day. And so I feel that a lot.
Yeah. What's really cool too is when I usually have a Fitbit on, but it's off now, obviously. So, is when I get off of that structure for me in my life, like I can track it with my Fitbit like, for instance, when I start my day thrown off, like you did today, I can tell I'm irritable, I'm agitated. Mm-hmm. My heart rate might be a little elevated throughout the day. I can't handle conflict as well, especially days that I meet with clients. I put priority on the days that I meet with clients. I have to do my morning routine because people pay me a lot of money and I have to give them my best.
That's right.
And so it's not just for if thinking about it just now, talking to you about it, I should be giving my family my best too. Mm-hmm. Why am I doing it for my clients? I need to have that structure in place every day so I give my family my best as well on days that I don't see my clients. So that was a really good aha moment.
That was cool. It's a little bit of a breakthrough right there, right here on camera with us. So like I said, just because we work in this field and we talk about it all the time, doesn't mean we always get it right.
No. Yeah.
We know what we're supposed to do. It doesn't mean we always do it. There's another guy who said that, a really wise man. His name is Paul. He wrote most of the New Testament. And he did. He said, I don't do the things that I want to do, and I do the things that I don't want to do. And that's what he's talking about. So thousands of years ago, over 2,000 years ago, here's this very wise guy who wrote most of the New Testament, and the Bible being, the best-selling book of all time. Whether you believe in it or not, it doesn't matter. It's still the best-selling book of all time. Okay. And he wrote most of the New Testament, right? Tons of wisdom. And this guy is having the same struggle that you and I are talking about right now today, that we have, which is our daily struggle. We don't do the things that we want to do, and we do the things that we don't want to do. Like, I don't want to stay up late. I don't want to doom scroll on my phone.
I know.
I want to get up early. I want to do this morning routine. I want to have a great, healthy attitude and a great mental health journey, but I don't do it. I find myself doom scrolling,
I know.
And so Paul, he talks about that in the New Testament. And I just thought that was so funny, that, here we are 2,000 years ahead of time, and we have not emotionally evolved at all when it comes to this.
And that's why I love doing stuff like this. I teach a parenting class. Mm-hmm. There's a Financial Peace University that I facilitated a few times, because when you're teaching it, you're constantly being presented with areas you can still grow in.
Absolutely.
Like I've taught the parenting class 10, 20 times, and I know it almost by heart, but there's still something that imposes on my heart that I need to be better at every time I teach it. And tons of research shows, I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head, but if you're in a class and you're just listening, you retain 20%. If you're listening and taking notes, the average person retains 30%. If you're listening, taking notes, practicing, you retain more. And then if you're listening, retaining, taking notes, doing a course, and then reteaching it, it's like 90%.
Yeah, it is. It's funny when you have to teach it, for some reason, your brain, it like switches on, right? Like full power. And so you start absorbing a lot more of this stuff as you're teaching it.
Yeah.
So,
well, and when you teach it, you have to go over the curriculum or the information over and over and over. When I'm just a connoisseur of the Financial Peace University once, I'm like super ready to do it right after, right? Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, let's be a gazelle and let's, and then months or years go by and I'm like, oh, I got to get back to the envelope system. What was that? But if I'm constantly teaching it, I'm constantly remembering all the important aspects of it.
When you were in the Army, and maybe they didn't do this in the Army, they did it in the Marine Corps, it was the show one, do one, teach one. Did they, for leadership? For like junior leadership, this was the thing. It was the show one, do one, teach one. So what does that mean? So show one means that somebody's going to show you how to do it, right? They're going to show you, you're just going to watch them, let's say, load a Mark 19 with belt-fed ammunition, right? It's a fully automatic grenade launcher. You guys want to Google it. It's pretty cool. And so how do you load and fire that thing? And so somebody's going to do it. You're going to watch them. And then you're going to be in the gunner seat. Mm-hmm. You're going to do it and fire it off. And then, so the first part of the learning is the watching. The second part of the learning is the doing. Mm-hmm. But the most important part is now when you have to teach somebody else how to do it. And I think it's because you've seen somebody do it and you watched it happen and then you did it and you weren't really paying attention to what was doing. It was kind of like muscle memory, like, mm-hmm. okay, slap it in, pull the feed tray down, rack the round, hit the butterfly. But now you have to take that and all those things that you were just doing. Now you have to articulate to somebody else so that they fully understand it and can do it as well. So all those little pieces that you were just doing on autopilot, you now have to explain how it works and why it works to somebody else. And so you just retain so much more. Yeah. So we would do that all the time. It's a
great allegory.
Show one, do one, teach one. And so for you guys that are listening right now, think about that in your job. Whatever it is that you're doing that they want you to, that you're doing, somebody showed you how to do it and then you started doing it. And if you really want to get really good, then teach somebody else how to do that thing. And you're going to see your level of competency goes up tremendously when you're teaching somebody else.
That's really good, Aaron.
So, yeah. You talked about grounding a little bit, and I don't want to get into this. Maybe we'll talk about grounding in the next episode or a couple episodes. That idea of grounding is so super important. And I grew up in the mountains of Northern California with a bunch of hippies, right? And so when I hear people talking about like, oh, I have to take my shoes off and, run in the grass, I thought, oh my gosh, here's these hippies, right? But man, they really were onto something. They really actually knew some stuff, even though they didn't know they knew it because science is actually proving it. And we'll talk about this guy, not in this episode, but I've been following this guy on YouTube who grounds his bed.
Yeah, I've seen him.
You've seen this guy?
Yeah.
This is crazy. And so it's crazy. And I don't want to get too deep into it, but we also from there, like grounding his bed, right? And he gets better rest and all this stuff. But then we watched another one where people in their gardens, in these raised garden boxes, they were grounding their garden boxes with copper rods. And I thought, I understand grounding. I was a radio operator, so you have to ground it to get better signal. So I understand that, but I thought plants, like, I don't know. Is that going to work? I'm telling you what, we did an A/B test at my house with our garden, and I'll bring in a photo and we'll give it to Casey and he'll throw it up. You can literally see the boxes that are grounded and the ones that aren't. The ones that are grounded, the vegetables are twice the size.
Really?
No kidding. It is unbelievable. And it's just this tiny little copper rod. It's about 3 feet long, super skinny. Put it in there. It grounds it. Unbelievable.
And plants and vegetables are living things.
They are.
And so are we.
And so are we.
Yeah.
And so, that whole grounding thing we were talking about, taking your shoes off and putting it on the ground. There's some real science to that. Yeah. And we'll talk about that in a future episode. So pretty cool. Yeah. Sorry, I just saw that squirrel. I had to chase it for a minute.
So we'll talk about how structure or the lack thereof structure can affect our mental health. And that this is personal to me because before I joined the Army, I was that free spirit, like, don't tell me where, like, I just want to live life. And I was a flight attendant. So I liked the like complete lack of structure. Like when you start as a flight attendant, you're on what you call reserve, and you get like 17 days on, 16 days off, whatever it comes to. And like, so you'll get like 3 days on, 2 days off, 5 days on, 4 days off. And you're a reserve. So you just wait by the phone and you get a call at 4:00 in the morning to find out what your trip is. So whatever senior flight attendant calls in, calls off, they're sick or they don't want to go on the trip or whatever. And you get to go on that trip. So sometimes it's an amazing 5-day trip to Hawaii. And sometimes it's like quick 8-hour layovers to crappy cities, but it's kind of like the anticipation of where am I going today? Right. And that's like, that was like who I loved that lifestyle. And then, I get diagnosed with PTSD, traumatic brain injury, and my life comes to a halt because now like I'm learning I have to have structure. I have to have structure. I have to be disciplined because I'm an adult also. And I fought it for a little while. But the more structure I put in my life and discipline I put in my life, the better my mental health is. And so I had to just admit it one day, like it does help with my mental health.
Yeah. And I like I said, dedicated a whole chapter to this because I felt it was so important. And I said structure, routine, and discipline. So the first two are easy. The structure, building a structure and creating a routine. That's easy. The hard part is the discipline.
Yeah.
Right. And so people talk about, build structure, but you have to have the discipline.
Yeah.
And so I look at it like the gym, right? Mm-hmm. Like gym memberships. Do they sell you month to month? No. They sell you an entire year. Why? Because they know you're going to quit within the first quarter, right? First 3 months, you're going to end up quitting. And so that's why they make you pay for the whole year. It's everybody wants to get fit, right? You see that like after Christmas to New Year's that week, everybody's talking about like, I'm going to hit the gym and I'm going to do this and I'm going to have my, summer body ready. And what do they call it? Hot mom summer or whatever, right? And so that's what they're all looking for. Like, I'm going to get fit and be ready for bikini season, right? And so they have this plan to do this. So the goal is to get fit. And so they create structure. Well, I'm going to get a gym membership and I'm going to go 5 days a week, right? And so that's what they do. Get the gym membership and they start going 5 days a week. It becomes a routine where they're doing it 5 days a week for the first week, maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then it breaks down to 4 days and then 3 days. And, I've got this other thing, so I don't have time to go to the gym. And by the time summer comes, there's nobody in the gym except for the gym rats, just in their Jack and Steel, which is what they've been doing the whole time. Everybody else has quit because they didn't lack structure. They had structure. They built a routine, but they lacked the discipline to continue to do it, even when it's difficult. And so that structure, routine, and that discipline, the discipline is the most important part of that whole equation, in my opinion. Yeah. Because if you lack that discipline, you're not going to have success with that structure.
Exactly. There's I don't know exactly, Mel Robbins. Have you heard of her? I follow her on YouTube. And she has a TED Talk that I'm not going to like say I agree with everything, but it's a really good TED Talk. It's about something about how to unscrew yourself or something like that. And one of her things is her 5-second rule. If you get a impulse to do something, you got to do it within the first 5 seconds of thinking of it. Like, I want to get up right now. You got to do it within 5 seconds or you're going to lay in bed, right? Not like fleshly things like, but it's stuff that are good for your body and good for your structure and things like that. And so she just articulates it so well. And she's like really like just her aura and stuff is really fun to watch. But she talks about like just, it's easier said than done, but like really just do it.
Yeah,
just do it. Just do it now. Yeah. So her first challenge is set your alarm. Don't set any, have you ever set 3 alarms so that you can? No. Yeah, you're better than me. So
I wasn't going to say it, but.
So like some people, I don't know who, but some people, research shows it, that they set an alarm for 6 and then 6:15 and then 6:30. So they know by 6:30 they have to get up.
Yeah.
She says, set one alarm and get up. Try that for a week. Right. And I did it and I was like, man, this changed my life. Like how I was screwing myself by setting 3 alarms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was just delaying.
An excuse.
Yeah, I was delaying. Right. And I don't even let my kids delay obedience. Like if I think about it as an obedience thing, like I got to get up at 6 to get my time in with the Lord. Like that's an obedience thing. If I want my kids to listen and obey the first time, I need to listen and obey the structure I put in place the first time as well.
Right.
And that's being a good example to my kids.
It's funny you said, do it now. And so if you guys ever heard of Napoleon Hill, you heard of Napoleon Hill?
Yeah.
He wrote Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
And so that's what he says. He says it all the time throughout the whole book. He'll tell you something new. He says, do it now. Don't wait. Do it now. And that's the thing. Like that was what you're talking about. That's what he would say all those years ago was do it now. Don't wait. Do it now. Otherwise, you're going to talk yourself out of it. So structure really affects so many areas of our life. And if we put structure in place, it can help us in a lot of things in our personal life, in our relationships, in our work. And so I'll have a couple examples here. Relationships. And so if like every Saturday, you're going to go on a date with your wife. That's just the expectation that you made it the structure, the routine to reconnect, leave the kids at home every Saturday for 2.5 hours. You're just going to go spend time doing stuff together, right? It could be shopping, eating, whatever. But having that structure built in, that way you don't start to lose connection with your spouse.
Yeah.
Right. Same thing with your personal life. You don't start to lose connection with yourself.
Yeah.
Because you have this structure that you've built in. At work, I help a lot of business owners start businesses or scale their business. I have several businesses now, all of them really successful. And I'm getting into this coaching now where I'm coaching other business owners on how to work on your business instead of working in your business. And a lot of that is creating structure in the business. That way, when they bring in employees, they know what the expectation is. They know what the goals are. What are the KPIs? And they know their left and right lateral limits and they can start executing. And so teaching people how to build this structure in their business, a lot of times like, oh, I understand this because I do structure when I'm golfing or, somewhere in their personal life. And so it's just remembering that structure piece, building that in, it works in all areas of your life. And when you talk to people, and you know people like this in your life, and maybe this is you right now, or it's been you in the past, where it just seems like everything is chaos all the time, right? Like it's just, you're surrounded by chaos. It's because you're not putting structure in place. Structure is the antithesis of chaos. And so they're opposite. So if you build structure, it eliminates the chaos. And if you lack structure, chaos will find you.
Yeah. I'm reminded of a time a couple summers ago that Liberty, my oldest daughter, and I, we volunteered at a horse rescue. And all of these horses were rescued from either severe neglect or abuse. And when they first come to this rescue farm, they are freaked out. They don't want to be around human beings. They're traumatized. Okay. And so in this barn, each of their stalls is very structured and very routine. Their daily routine, their eating routine, and their stalls. So what happens is the horse person, the horse handler, takes the horses out every morning at the same time on routine. And then we come in and we clean the stalls and we make them look very clean and very like organized every single day. So when the horses come back in, they know what to expect every single time. And within 2 or 3 weeks of these horses being in this kind of routine and structure, they start to relax and trust and build confidence. They start putting on weight, like wonderful things happen. And I like, when I was doing that kind of work, I thought, oh my gosh, how amazing would this be for vets? Because it's kind of like we think out of sight, out of mind. And so we don't work on things because it's not in front of us. But when I saw how effective that was for the horses, I started implementing it in my life. And it really, really helped me. I mean, I don't care who you are, coming home to a clean, clutter-free home, coming home to dishes piled up, shoes all over the place from my dogs running around. It's like I come home like this, right? And it takes structure and routine to keep your home, right? Pleasing to come home to, things like that. That structure and routine and discipline are really going to help.
It creates comfort.
Yeah.
right? Because you know what the expectation is, like you say, having a clean
like the
house
horse.
and things like that. It creates comfort, but knowing what's coming next, that creates comfort and builds trust.
Yeah.
And so, and that could be with anything, anything that you do in your life, having structure for your kids. Kids thrive in structure because there's so much of their life they're not in control of. They just have to do what, the parents tell them, what the bus driver tells them, what the teacher tells them, what, adults tell them. And so they don't have a lot of control over that. So that structure really helps them thrive because they know what's coming next. They know what the expectation is. And that's why kids that really stress out are kids that don't have that structure, like somebody who has an alcoholic parent who comes home and they have no idea what's going to happen next, right? There's a lot of fear that happens and trepidation that happens. I know I grew up like that. And so you're always waiting for, the next emergency to happen. And it's scary. Yeah. And I think about, like when people go into rehab, right? Yeah. The rehab facility and inpatient, everything is very regimented, very structured. Everybody wakes up at this time, breakfast is between this time and this time. Then you have to go get cleaned up. Then you have to make up your room. Then you have to go to this therapy session. And then there's going to be a break. And then you're going to do this other therapy session. So everything is so structured in there and they thrive. Yeah. And then they go back out into the world where it's chaos. And then a lot of times they end up failing because they don't take those lessons of creating structure and routine and discipline back home with them. It's just there in the facility. So I've seen a lot of facilities now, one of them Royal Life Centers, which is great. They're local here. They're fantastic. And so they have that inpatient, but then they have, it's like a transition from inpatient to
integrating outpatient. Back into
yes.
Outpatient.
So now you have the very structured inpatient, and then you go to this other side of the facility where you have more freedoms. You go to work, but you still have that structure that's there, in the mornings and in the evenings. And huge success rates with that model versus coming to this facility where everything is structured and then back out into the world and people, fail because they haven't had that slow re-entry back into life. And so what they do different, which is fantastic, and maybe we can bring them on sometime. They'd love to come on and talk about this because they take people from that inpatient, hardcore structured inpatient, and then they have this other facility where there's more freedoms. They're going to work, finding jobs, maybe getting education, but that morning routine and that evening routine are still there. So they bookend their day. Yep. And they're having tremendous success with people. And they have a veterans only facility actually down in Lacey, which is pretty cool as well. Yeah. So structure, guys. Super, super important. And just start with something small, right? Like if you feel overwhelmed right now, like just start with something small. And later in the podcast, just do it now. We'll go through a little bit of that. Like we always do, a little mini therapy session where we'll walk through what that looks like. But just start with something small in the beginning of your day, make a list. And then what's going to help you with that discipline is having an accountability partner. Somebody's going to check up and be like, hey, did you do your morning routine today? That's going to be really, really important to help you be successful. All right, Jess, so let's talk about current events. Yes. What current events are out there? And so in the pre-show, we talked about this a little bit. And so, Jess, I'm just going to let you just jump right in. Go ahead.
We're going to talk about the movie Sound of Freedom today. And it's a big circulating event right now. It's a movie with Jim Caviezel. He was the actor in The Passion of the Christ. He played Jesus Christ in that. He was also the main actor in Count of Monte Cristo. If you saw that,
yes,
my favorites. And he is a Christian actor, and he plays Tim.
I don't know. I haven't seen the movie. So Jess has seen it. I haven't. I've just seen all the highlights, and I've seen all the little TikToks and all that stuff talking about.
So in a nutshell, FBI agent Tim, last name, I'm sure everybody knows it. He, from my understanding, found out, I got a lead on a trafficking ring in Colombia, asked his FBI team if he could have the go to go in and infiltrate and take over. They denied it. He quit his job and he did it on his own. And so this movie is based on a true story. Tim, the ex-FBI agent, helped them create this movie. So it's very, very close to real life events. A funny part, I watched a interview with him that somebody had asked his wife who should play Tim in the movie, and she said Jim Caviezel, and they were like, yes. However, they wanted to actually film it in Colombia, and I might be wrong on this. Somebody said Jim Caviezel, and they were like, yes, this is perfect. But then Jim Caviezel's wife found out they were going to video it in Colombia, and she was like, no, I don't want that. I don't want my husband over there. And so, because it's a pretty dangerous area. And so Tim, the FBI guy or Navy SEAL now, or has a team of Navy SEALs that go in and rescue these children. And he said, what if I have 15 Navy SEALs on him at all times? And she said, okay. And then during one of the recordings for a day and a half, he looked at production, whatever, looked around and was like, there's only 3 Navy SEALs. Where are the other 12? And come to find out, they went in while they were recording this movie in 2018 and saved like 22 kids.
Wow.
It was amazing. Awesome. So
they conducted an operation
while they were doing the movie.
The filming was the cover for the op.
Yes. So one of the controversial things about this movie is it was filmed in 2018, done in 2018, but because of the controversy of it, they had to jump through so many hoops. It took them 5 years to actually be able to air it in the movie theaters. And you can use your imagination of what kind of hoops they had to jump through. But it exposes so much of that dark, disgusting world. And it's a very triggering movie. Mm-hmm. And so some people say, I can't watch it. It'd be too hard. And I just would challenge those people to go through an hour and 50 minutes of being uncomfortable and triggered. Because what it does is the movie exposes an emotion to want to go out and do something about it that you're not going to experience unless you go through those hard feelings. Like hard feelings, hard things, hard truths are what motivate us to go out and make a difference, if that makes sense. And so, yes, it's hard to watch. Yes, every single person in the theater was crying. But every single person in that theater stayed to watch the ending, because then they talk about what we can do to go out and make a difference and be a change. And so it's just it's a hard topic.
Yeah, I haven't seen the movie yet. And so years and years ago, before I decided to start commissions in my nonprofit, I was looking for a better nonprofit that I could go and serve and help. And I have a unique skill set with the work that I did in the Marine Corps. And so, being a naval weapons security manager, communication specialist, close combat instructor, and working with Anglico, like I'm used to working in those small teams and going and do things like that. And I found an organization called Underground Railroad. And
that's this organization.
Is that who this is?
Yeah.
No way.
Tim,
are you serious?
He runs Underground Railroad. Yeah.
Okay.
Crazy.
That's funny. I've not seen the movie.
Oh my gosh.
I came really close. I even put an application to go work with these guys. Okay.
Funny.
And I did a phone interview with them years and years ago because I did not know that's who this was. So, because they're a bunch of, like I said, former operators that wanted to go out and work in this space, And so I thought, I have that skill set. I could go make a difference. But I didn't end up doing it. My wife was like, no, I don't want you operating in that space. She didn't know me when I was, working in Anglico or in the military at all. But she was actually a trafficking victim when she was a child. And so here in the U.S., through the foster care system, and then was adopted out by a family that just trafficked her. And so when you talk about triggering and trauma, I didn't know a lot of this stuff. I knew a little bit of it back then. I know a lot more now because she's comfortable and she talks to me about it. And she's pretty open about it now. But back then she just was like, no, absolutely not. Wouldn't talk about it. And I'm like, but I can make a real difference here. I could really help. I have the skills to be able to do this kind of work. But she didn't want me to have any part in it because it was very triggering for her. And so when it comes to like this movie, like she doesn't want to go see it. And I totally understand that. Right. And so for there are people who had these experiences, and it probably wouldn't well, I can almost guarantee it wouldn't be good for your mental health to go and relive that in the movie theater.
No.
It'd probably be really detrimental.
Yes.
But for the rest of us who haven't had that experience, I agree with you 100%. That we need to go and we need to be exposed to this really traumatic thing that's happening right now, today, because that is destroying so many children when it comes to their mental health and their mental health journey throughout life. Because think about it, if they suffer that type of abuse and they grow up like that, it's so difficult for them to try and, live a regular life, right? When you've had that much trauma that early on, it takes a lot of work to get to a place where you can feel comfortable in normal situations like a movie theater, like going overseas. Just different sights, sounds, and smells will trigger that kind of reaction in people. And without tremendous amount of therapy and a lot of hard work, they don't go through it. You see a lot of them fall into drug addiction, prostitution, and then they end up, on the streets or dying because, their mental health has been so damaged because of this trauma that they've experienced. Yeah.
Well, and it also, somebody like your wife, who I love dearly, and I've watched her grow through her process. She doesn't need that emotional pull to come out. Like she has it.
Yeah.
Right.
She knows it.
It's for the rest of us who have lived, there's going to be triggers. There's going to be things that are hard to watch about it. If it's a trigger as far as something that you've experienced, completely different.
Right.
Completely different. But if it's just be really hard for me to watch because I have kids. I would just challenge you to watch it, because those kids that are being trafficked are somebody's kids.
Mm-hmm.
And those parents are more uncomfortable than you will ever be in the 2 hours of watching it. And it also is really good at giving you perspective. And I'm in this new stage of life where I'm like, I want to push perspective, right? I hear parents tell their kids, "Oh, eat your food because there's starving kids in Africa." I see the kind of the push behind that. I understand what they're trying to get. Like, there are starving kids in Africa, but a kid's not going to understand that until they experience the starving kids in Africa.
Right.
So we can't teach gratitude and thankfulness we can to a certain extent, but you have to experience gratitude and thankfulness with a perspective change. And watching this movie gives you a perspective, especially as a mental health counselor, that I love what I do with veterans, with adolescents on a daily basis here in America. But it did put a fire in me to want to help outside of these, these trials that kind of we go through here in America. I don't want to minimize what anybody goes through because we all handle stress and anxiety and life differently. It is a really good eye opener, though, I posted something on Facebook last night that one good thing about war that is 20 years later, I can still go through a hard thing. And the first thing that comes to my mind is it could be so much worse.
Yes.
Because it has been so much worse. Mm-hmm. And so it just, just like the Bible and the wisdom of the Bible says that trials and hardships create endurance, perseverance, and character. Mm-hmm. And so go through the hour and 15 minutes of being uncomfortable, because it's going to build endurance, perseverance, and character, and a motivation to go out there and change.
Yeah. And one of the things that you're probably going to experience, because I experienced this with my wife, is that these things are hard to hear. But here's the other part. It's really hard for your brain to understand or even believe sometimes, because it's so foreign to what the rest of our experiences have been in life. It's this new information that's come in. And so you've heard about it, but it's always been like somebody else or, like a friend of a friend's cousin or something like that, right? And it has never been really in your face to where you have to recognize it and you have to deal with this now. And so your brain has been wired to think in certain pattern. And now here this new information comes and says, well, that pattern needs to change and it needs to adopt this new section to grow in your mind. You start your brain connections, your neural connections, and your emotional maturity starts to evolve and starts to grow. And that's what happens. And it can be really difficult and really uncomfortable. And there's going to be probably times, I haven't seen the movie yet, but I'm guessing just because of working with my wife and the stuff that she's told me and experience that she's had, your first reaction is like, I don't believe that happened. And it's not like you believe that that person is lying or that the movie is not true. Your brain literally cannot grasp that concept in that moment in time. Okay. And that's okay. That's not bad. Just it takes a few minutes and sometimes a few days for your brain to accept this new information as truth and change that neural connection.
Yeah.
And so it takes time. So don't beat yourself up where you're like, I don't know if I believe that. That's okay. That's your brain trying to understand this new information that came in.
Yeah.
And
horrific
reroute
information.
Yeah, horrific. And reroute and to accept this new reality that you are going to experience. Because when you leave this movie, my guess is that you will not be the same that when you came in. Yeah. You are going to be drastically different because your brain has been exposed to this new information that is horrible and traumatic. And you're like, I can't believe that humans would do that to one another. It's going to be extremely uncomfortable to learn this new information, accept it as truth, and now have to do something with it. So I'm warning you guys. I haven't seen it yet. I'm just telling you from my experience of with my wife and going through that, it takes a little bit of time for your brain to rewire and accept this new reality.
And it'll be interesting for me and fun to talk to you about this. Just do a quick recap once you have seen it.
Yeah. And so,
especially now that you know that it's Operation
I know, that's crazy. Underground Railroad.
Yes.
Operation Underground Railroad. Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah. So years ago, like I said, I was going to go work with those guys, and man, my life would be totally different, right? Yeah. I wouldn't have started, all the mental health work that I'm doing now. We probably wouldn't have met. I'd just be off. I don't know if my marriage would have. Well, I don't know if my marriage would have survived it, honestly, because it would be. Because there is a level of trauma that I would experience going and doing that kind of work, right? Yeah. And so, it's got to be really difficult for all those operators out there that are working in this space and doing this and seeing this every day and having to deal with it. So I'm super stoked now that I know that was that organization that I was going to go work with all those years ago. And I won't tell you where their headquarters was, but it's not too far from the Northwest here. And I was going to go work with those dudes. That's crazy. It's crazy. Wow.
Okay, we're at segment 4. Do it now.
Do it now. Can I have a minute? No, I'm just kidding.
No, you don't get a second alarm today, Aaron.
Yes. This is the part that I'm sure a lot of you guys are waiting for. The therapy session, right? And so Jess and I do a little miniature therapy session. Microtherapy, just to show you guys kind of what therapy looks like. And so we do this because we want to break down those barriers and the stigma around going and getting professional mental health help. And so we want to show you guys a window into what this looks like. So we give you just a really quick, small micro session of what different therapy sessions could look like when you decide to go and get help from a professional like Doc Jess here. Oh. All right.
So how I would start this out with my client is, Aaron, tell me a little bit about what structures you have in place in your life right now.
So I don't really have any structure at all. Like I just I'm the kind of guy that just takes life as it comes. I just wait for something to happen and then I just deal with it. I try not to think too much about it. Otherwise I just get overwhelmed.
Yeah. And what on a scale from 1 to 10, say this last week, where has your anxiety been? 10 being like I'm super stressed out, anxious. 0 being I am calm as a cucumber.
I'd probably say I'm close to like 8s and 9s. Like I feel like chaos. I've got all these different projects that are happening. I feel like I'm not making headway on any of them. And I just feel like I'm living in chaos right now. Okay.
Tell me, what does your day-to-day look like? When do you wake up? When do you go to bed?
I kind of just go to bed whenever. But when I go to bed, I just lay there and just kind of scroll until I fall asleep. So it could be like 11, 12 o'clock by the time I fall asleep. Okay. And then I'm up. I try to get up at 5, but I really don't roll out of bed till about 6:37. Okay. Sometimes. And I got to be at work at 8.
Okay. Why do you try to get up at 5?
I don't know, so I can be more productive and not feel rushed in the morning.
Mm-hmm. What is it like for you when you feel rushed in the morning?
Chaos. Feel irritated, frustrated, like I don't have enough time. And then it feels like I'm just running from one thing to the next all day.
Yeah. envision what it would look like for you if you did wake up at 5 o'clock. What would you do to prepare for your day?
Yeah, my morning routine wouldn't have to be rushed. I could spend more time on self-care, enjoy a couple cups of coffee, play with the dogs a little bit, go out and feed the animals, do my Bible study in the morning, and have time to do that and not feel rushed.
Yeah.
Like today, I forgot bringing batteries that I needed, and so I have to go buy those instead of just being able to bring them from home, just because I didn't have time to prepare for my day.
Yeah. What else during your day when you feel rushed do you feel is negatively affected?
Oh, I know my work productivity is definitely affected because I feel like I'm rushed. I can't complete a project. But then also, I know my relationships at work. I'm just shorter with people. I'm snappier with people because I start off my day irritated.
Sure. Ideally, how would you like to be with people you work with?
I like it to be a fun environment. I'd like for us to have fun. I'd like for us to be able to accomplish tasks. And I can tell that when I'm on edge, everybody else kind of just stays away from me and they're on edge too. And so I don't like that feeling. I can see it. I don't like it. I just don't know how to fix it.
Sure. So one thing when we're trying to make changes in our life, right, is a lot of the times we're like, okay, I need to do this, and this to make a better life. And maybe we could sustain it for a day or two or three. However, long term, research has shown that it's not very effective. And so one thing that we've talked about in other sessions is that hit of dopamine is the happy and encouraging hormone or endorphin, whatever it's called. That if we get that hit of dopamine when we meet even the smallest goals. And so what I would challenge you this week is to set one small goal every day that is going to make the biggest change in your day, in your week. And whether that's going to, I would start with, and I don't usually give my clients advice, but for the sake of time here, I'm helping you come to this conclusion quicker. So the two that would stand out to me is like all screens turned off 2 hours before you want to go to bed, or wake up at 5 o'clock every morning for a week and see how it changes and journal how it changed and affected your day. Which one do you think would be most effective and most doable for you?
I think the morning
okay
would be the easiest to do. Yeah.
Easiest. And do you believe it would be effective? Like, do you believe you would get positive results from it?
I don't know, but I'm willing to try it.
Sure.
And see.
What are some obstacles that could get in your way from getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning?
Willpower, I guess.
Okay. And so with that willpower, what are the things that are more important than for you than getting up at 5?
I think the things that would be more important would be making sure I didn't feel rushed, stressed out in the morning. I think that's more important.
Right. So if we're talking about obstacles, like the things that stop you from getting up at 5.
Oh, I understand. So the things that stop me from getting up at 5 a.m.
You said willpower.
Yeah, willpower, just laziness or I don't know, because I get up at 5 a.m. I'm trying to think of like why would somebody not get up? Because I'm tired because I stayed up too late.
Yeah. So if you force yourself to get up at 5, do you think come 10 o'clock that night, you might be a little more tired than normal?
Yeah, and I would have suffered the consequences all day. So maybe I'd go to bed earlier.
Maybe, and then maybe it's a little easier the next morning,
yeah.
Right? And, it comes down to, like you said, willpower. Like that alarm goes off, get up. Set the alarm on the other side of the room. Do whatever you have to do to crush that willpower, right? So that there's no excuses. And do it for a week. And maybe when you get home from the day, journal a little bit about how you interacted with your employees, how you interacted with your wife, your daughter, and try to draw some positives from your day and see if it's really making a difference for you. Because once you start seeing that it's making a difference, it's going to encourage that willpower more and more and give you more of those dopamine hits, right? Is that something your homework you can try for me this week?
I can absolutely try it.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
All right. So that is what a session could look like. And said for time's sake, Jess gave me those two options, but typically you want to lead somebody to find those conclusions. Why is that important?
Yes.
I want to touch on that. Why is it important for people to come to that conclusion on their own than just get advice from you?
Right. Because it's organic. Mm-hmm. It's coming from them. I mean, think about in your marriage, right? Think about, have you ever told your wife something about herself for years and she doesn't listen to you, but somebody else tells her outside of you and she comes home and is like, oh, guess what I just learned today? And you're like, I've been telling you that for years.
I choose not to make statements that may incriminate myself or others involved in these allegations.
I'll tell you what, it happens with me in my marriage all the time. I tell Billy.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Billy tells you and then somebody else.
Yeah, too. Yeah, it goes both ways. It happens in marriages all the time.
Right,
and it's because we're one. So I'm hearing it from him. I hear it from somebody else. I'm like, oh my gosh, I learned this. And he's like, oh, I've been trying to tell you that for years.
You know, I see that with my kids too, though.
Kids too. Okay.
You can tell your kids the same thing. And then one of their friends tells them and they come home and like, oh, I'm going to do this because of X, Y, and Z. And it's like, I've been telling you that forever.
Yeah. It's the same thing with ourselves and with a counselor. Like I can give you advice all day long, but the motivation behind doing that it's just different when you come to the conclusion yourself. Mm-hmm. Just like in a marriage or with your kids, like, hearing it from a friend is kind of like organically figuring it out for themselves instead of their parent telling them. Instead of your counselor telling you what to do, you're figuring it out for yourself. And research and studies and years of counseling, it proves that when you come up with the solution or the why or the understanding, it helps with that willpower and for sustained growth.
Yeah, I do this with my employees, right? I could just give them the answer, especially like a new employee. I just put, not necessarily a new, but maybe I've taken an employee and given them more responsibility or put them into a new position. And then I know the answers for whatever it is that they're asking me, but I don't want to give that to them because it's not going to have as much value as if I can lead them to find that answer on their own and just be there to kind of coach them along. Then they feel accomplished. Like I figured this out versus I was told what to do and I just did it. And so it definitely boosts their self-confidence and their motivation to want to try next time as well. Yeah. So when they say, hey, I'm having a problem with whatever it is, this thing, what should I do? And I said, well, what have you tried? Well, I haven't tried anything yet. I said, well, what would you like to try? What do you think would be the best option? Well, I think maybe we could do this or do that. Well, which one of those is the best option? And then they'll tell me. Or they'll say, hey, I want to do this solution. And I'll ask them the question, is that the best solution? Mm-hmm. Like, oh, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Do you have a better one? I said, no, I don't. I said, is that the best solution you have? Well, no, but it's the most cost effective. I said, okay, well, what's the best solution? Well, it's this one, but it costs this much. This one's cheaper. And then I help them work through that cost analysis. Like, okay, this may be a cheaper solution, but if it's only going to last for a few months, then we have to redo it. Is it really the best, cheapest solution? Mm-hmm. Or should we just go with the more expensive solution and not have to deal with it? Mm-hmm. And helping them not just find the solution, but then weigh two solutions and see which one is going to be the best long-term. Yeah. And so I do that a lot with my employees. And you're right, when they can come to that conclusion on their own, number one, they feel empowered. And number two, it frees me up from having decision fatigue. Now, I don't have to make all the decisions all the time. Sure. I can empower them to do it. Yes. And that's what we want to do. We want to educate you guys. We want to empower you to take control of your mental health journey. And we want to encourage you along the way. And so now we have just educated them on this idea of structure, like building structure and routine. And we've empowered you now to take this information that we've given you and apply it to your life with something small. Something small. One thing. choose one thing and make that change.
Mhm.
And then come back every week, and we're going to continue to encourage you along the way with more cool content. I also have a private Facebook group that's out right now. It's called Workplace Wellness. And so this is designed, this private group is designed for executives or owners, CEOs, people who are in a leadership position who can have positive effect on the mental health of their sphere of influence. Right?
Perfect.
And so it's a private group, and I'm there every week, and I'm giving you guys more information about how to take this information, kind of like what you're getting here, but into your workplace where you can have positive effect on your employees. So I'll put the link in the description. I'll give it to Casey and we'll put it in there. And then you guys can, if you want to join that, you can. Just know that it's designed for people who are in that leadership position.
Sure.
So those are the things that we're going to be talking about. So if you're not technically in a leadership position, this might not be the group for you, because we're going to be talking about some things that may not really be applicable for you. But if you are, come join it, check it out. And
that's cool. Good stuff.
Yeah, we'll be able to encourage you guys more throughout the week. And I know, Jess, you're getting ready to do some more parenting classes. And so we'll put that stuff up as well. So you guys can connect with us offline as well, through our different link profiles that we have out and social media pages. You can go to thementalhealthjanitors.com and you can find out how to connect with us. There's a contact link right there. You connect with us. Send us an email. If you have questions, we can get you connected to resources. If you want to join some of our groups that we're doing, like she's going to be facilitating some stuff coming up. I've got some things coming up as well down in Mexico. And so if you guys want to be part of that, you can do that as well. Tons of ways that you guys can continue to connect with us, get more information. Every Monday, I put out Mental Health Mondays. So you can go to my YouTube channel. You can find that stuff there. So if you're watching this, there are so many other ways to connect with us and things that we do in the community, how we can help you one-on-one or get you connected to other resources. We'd love to be able to help you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Jess, do you have any final words for the viewers?
No, you've taken it all.
All right, you guys. Well, that's it for us. I'm Sergeant Q. And again, this is Doc Jess, and we are your mental health janitors, helping you clean up the mess
in your head.
Okay, let's do that one more time.
No.
No?
Do it.
Oh, okay. I was like, don't we got to do it together? Okay, perfect. Keep it.